G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. With our AFL Fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars, we only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who will bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and welcome back to the studio for another week. Geordie to centre. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How's it going? Thanks for having me back.
No problems, mate. Thanks for coming back. Had a bit of an emergency this week. Actually had two people pull out this week. So so you're the lifesaver of the week. I said on Thursday when I texted you, I was like, I might keep you on the emergency and loophole you on.
Yeah, that's what we do in fantasy.
So exactly. So you must have put in a good performance on the weekend and here to loophole you in.
Yeah, it's good to talk as well because fantasy wise had a decent week, and in Supercoach too. So there you go, the whole loophole.
We've got to be careful not to talk about the salary cap too much. We're facing a lot of heat out there talking about salary cap, mainly just from K's, really.
Right. So, what's he saying? He's just giving it to you.
Apparently, because Stevie Fizz has been on the Point of Difference, the pod the last 2 weeks in a row, purely because they're struggling for guests. Stevie just being a good bloke, and K's is pot-shotting him in the comments about being classic focus now. What's happened to you? I don't get the hate, because
that's crazy.
It's just fantasy.
Exactly.
It's all fantasy.
We're talking footy.
I play every format of fantasy because I'm just obsessed. So it doesn't really matter.
Too.
But we're here to talk draft and Keeper League. So we won't keep the classic or the Supercoach chatter up too much. I don't want to talk about my teams anyway in any format, so it doesn't really matter. I know you're doing it right. You're outranking me in Supercoach now, so
I think you still be all right.
The dream's over for me. Hate Supercoach now. But anyway, welcome back to the podcast. Did you watch much footy on the weekend? You had a few gigs. What was the go?
I did have a few gigs, but I did manage to watch a few games. I love the Thursday night games. That's like unreal, and obviously not gigging on Thursdays at the moment. So,
well, have you heard the news?
What's the news?
They're about to release the rest of the year's fixture. No more Thursday night games for the rest of the year.
Damn.
So we'll probably get some in finals like we always do.
Yeah.
But they've scrapped it even though it was like immensely successful and does that seem crazy to you?
It does. Like it doesn't like obviously the games as well, they don't overlap by having that Thursday game in. You don't have to squeeze it all in on the weekends.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect thing to lead into a weekend.
Absolutely.
So I just
For like viewers, you don't have that double up on the Saturday arvo, so you can watch like an extra game around. For us like podcasters, where we try to have eyes on every game, the less amount of double ups is fantastic. Like I know a lot of people whinge about the 6:30 starts on the Sunday because it's pretty late, but at the same time, for people like us who like to watch every second of every game to try to pick up as much information as we can, like no overlaps is like the perfect. Do you know what would be ideal? I don't know if it's controversial or not.
What?
Get rid of the dual Saturday night game, move on to Monday. So you got Monday night football, like in America. You know how it's. We probably don't have the population to support
that would be very interesting.
It's been done before.
Yeah,
they've done a few trials and stuff. I think they usually put like St Kilda and North though. Back in the day, they used to do that sort of shit to the game as well. But like, I don't know. I remember
the 2 Friday night games this round.
That wasn't too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah,
because you can kind of switch over at half time and get a fair bit of it, and then we got the whole second half once the Port game finished.
Yeah,
so
same.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm not. I wouldn't be against a Monday.
And also for fantasy, you can stream more players when they play on a Thursday.
That's it, especially when you go lockouts. But anyway, I'm a rolling lockout type of man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, my league doesn't play that. But you can tell that to Commish K's. Let's get stuck into the show. Big thank you to Game Day Squad. I feel like I don't pump them up enough on this podcast. That's seriously, like I kind of just say, here's a free pack, but don't legit actually thank them for all the work they do. Like, and then, even with the game in, constant communication with Cow and the team, they're always like, looking for ideas and give me a call, and they value my opinion and all this shit. So I appreciate that as well. And appreciate the support that they put behind the show. If you haven't signed up yet, you could do me like the slightest favor and do them the slightest favor, is just jump on the link in the description, download the app, sign up, make an account. You don't even have to play, but the numbers there make things look good for the business and investments and all that sort of stuff as well. So if you could do one favor for me to support Game Day Squad, it would be to download the app and sign up and open your free packs or whatever.
Opening packs are just so fun.
Absolutely.
I love it.
The issue is I'm finding at the moment, I'm not getting last week I was doing a live stream and they'd give me 6 packs a week to open.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that this year, which is fine. Like you can't just hand out packs willy-nilly for the the end of time or whatever. But yeah, I'm finding it heaps harder to build a good team when I don't have constant packs to open. But the thing is, like, I had 6 packs a week, every week last year. I still can't build a team good enough to like win it. Like you've still got to actually pick the best combination of players.
It's hard. It's because it's pretty matchup dependent, 100%. Right? Because you basically got all the cards. So it's like there's no trading really. So it's like you have to pick the right matchups.
And like I think if you've got like the best players, like you'll put the best averaging players like on the field type thing. Yeah. But you'll always get beaten by the players that don't have the best averaging players because like a random player or like, I'll put a Diamond Jack Sinclair on this week and he spuds it up. 59. That type of thing.
Exactly.
Like, where people that don't even have that card can't play that card and get something better by playing, Nazai Wanganeen Miller or whatever. So, anyway. Game Day Squad, get around them, support them. We're giving away a pack each week. The deal is I spin the wheel, I read out the team name. If it's your team name, get in contact with me via our email address, the contact form on the website, X, Facebook. Send me an Instagram message, whatever. Everyone's got in contact with me in many different ways so far. So the packs are seeming to get to the people that win them. So here we go. Spinning the wheel now. Let's see who comes up. And the winner is this week. I'm going to say it is the Pits. Well done, the Pits, with 2 T's and 2 S's. So if you're the coach of the Pits, get in contact with us. I've got a pack for you and, help you kind of boost your Game Day Squad team. Anyways, let's get stuck into the show. The round review, Carlton versus Melbourne. Matthew Kennedy. We were patting ourselves on the back last week because we were like, when Chera comes back, he's going to be back to the forward line, or he got subbed last week, and we were just like, we were so right about Matthew Kennedy. Comes to this week, and he's starting in the midfield. George Hewitt's the sub, and he's playing a tagging role on Petrarca, I guess. Manages to pull out 85 points. I kind of wasn't paying heaps of attention because Petrarca went forward. Kennedy didn't go forward with him, though, did he?
A little bit, I think, but not, I mean, Petrarca, I think, even I was listening to his post-game thing and he was like, he's obviously had a bit of out of form a little bit in the midfield. So he obviously got that tag and he's gone, I'm going forward straight away, and obviously dominated up there. So, but I feel like Kennedy, moves around with him quite a bit.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's going to keep that tagging role. The thing is, like, Chera's gotten injured again. So, what happens there? Like, because Hewitt was kind of the tagger.
That's what I thought, and it's is that a management thing? Like they're just managing players, but then Chera's out now, so I think they'll probably bring in Carroll or Binns. Actually had a massive VFL game.
Binns more the outside type though, so it shouldn't affect them too much. Carroll's one I do like that could come in,
and he had a pretty good game in the VFL.
Yeah.
So
it's still a week to week proposition with Matthew Kennedy, but what Damon said when he was on the podcast here a few weeks ago. It's just so much easier that he's a forward. Like if he was a midfielder, you'd be so frustrated with the ins and outs. But given that he's a forward, you can kind of ride that a little bit more, I think.
100%. And if you do play rolling lockout, like I think that's perfect. You can see who the sub is, and if he's not sub, like he's pretty much, you think he's pretty confident in scoring. Like, and we were even talking about last week, because Zach Williams was injured, whether he would go defence. Yeah. And then this week he's playing tagging role. So. I'd be watching if he's sub, and if he's not as a forward, I'd be pretty confident to put that as a F4, F5 if you need to in your team. Yeah,
definitely. Alex Neil-Bullen had his monthly 23 touches and 12 tackles to get there. I guess the wet weather does help him get those 12 tackles as well. He's averaging in the 70s, so he's a viable option for your forward lines, but just not one I'm getting super excited about. It's like what you see is what you get with Alex Neil-Bullen.
Petrarca going forward, they had to put someone in the midfield, so it was him. He had pretty high CBAs, obviously that's the beneficiary there.
Yeah, he does get used off and on, doesn't he? In there. So I think he averaged like 2% CBAs for the season last year, but it was like in spurts, there'll be games where he doesn't go in there and then he has like 1 or 2 and that sort of stuff. So
Petrarca, like obviously he kicked 5 goals. He had the highest time, like 67% time forward this week. Yeah. So whether that's because of the tag or whether he's actually going to keep that role.
He kicked 5 goals, didn't he?
He kicked 5 goals.
Yeah, so...
and he, as I said, he's been a bit out of form in the midfield. So, he said he was happy that he was able to kick some goals and contribute to the team. So, if he does play a bit more forward, you got Neil Bullen and I guess Sparrow, the next guy talking about, they're going to, get some more CBAs.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we'll move on to Tom Sparrow as well. So, second most used midfielder behind Oliver, with Petrarch obviously going forward. Some nice clearance work. I just remember a few times just breaking away from the stoppage in those conditions. I think that's the score we've been waiting for him since he's got forward status. I think owners just would want to be a little bit more consistent. I think that's the issue with him. Also, your boy Caleb Windsor. I've dubbed him as your boy.
Yeah, love that.
84 points, back-to-back good scores. Continues to impress. Is he too good for the podcast now? Given that he's like a rookie that was so highly hyped up in the preseason, I think we have to give it to him, don't we?
Well, 2 weeks ago he had 67 points and got subbed off at 3/4 time.
Yeah.
So he would have got an 80. So that would be 380 plus. So yeah, again, same thing on the wing, +6s, kicked a goal. Great to see. I've had one of my mates and a keeper actually has tried to target him for a trade after the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So.
I think we've got to give him that 80 for that week he was subbed out. So he's too good for the podcast for mine.
And he plays West Coast this week.
Oh, there we go. There's another 80 plus score. He's on my field in like all my classic teams as well. So yeah, needs to, when he's in that conversation, you're too good for the podcast. Geelong Cats versus Port Adelaide. This was pretty funny because like you were really excited that we were winning this game, and I was just all doom and gloom, misery. It's like, we're going to sign Ken Hinkley out for another 5 years now.
I know. I was like, yes, goal, yes, keep going.
And I was just like, no, shut up, Jordy. We want to lose. But anyway, we'll start with the Cats. Zach Guthrie, 104 points. He's too good for the podcast. We put a lot of time into Stewart. I guess that might have freed him up a little bit more, but he's had 4 good weeks in a row at the moment. So
he's putting up the numbers. You got the confidence now to like. One of my mates dropped him a couple of weeks ago. Someone's picked him up, got the 4 good scores. He's spewing, and I think you're right. Like Stewart getting the time.
Yeah,
I think we were sort of double teaming him.
Yeah, we were, and then I think McEntee was going to him and just doing a bit of a forward.
So that's
he was on the wing as well, and we'll just follow him everywhere.
Exactly. So Guthrie is being the guy at the moment. So
yeah, I think like he scored well with him in the set side last week as well. So like I don't think we can really say like it's because of that. I think it's like the proof is in the pudding that he's done 4 weeks in a row. Doesn't need Stewart to be quiet to score as well. Pretty funny story actually, kind of going on a bit of a tangent. A couple of weeks ago I got a message from Dossie saying because he said Sam Durham will be good one day about 4 years ago, that he was claiming him. And I was like, well, I said he'll be good this year. Like, this is the year to pick him up. That's more useful information than saying, watching a guy one game for 4 years ago and saying he'll be good one day than saying, like, draft him this year. Anyway, I got a message from Dos Saturday morning saying, like, Zach Guthrie, can I claim that one? And because I don't have any stocks in Zach Guthrie. I've never made a video about him. I don't own him in my keeper league. I've let Dossie claim all the stocks in Zach Guthrie. So, yeah.
Does he call him Zote or something? I don't know.
The Zote. That's right. So, yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd just tie that in.
I remember that. Dossie, on the pod years ago, I reckon even.
He's got some good nicknames, old Dossie, doesn't he, for some players? He's good with a pun and a rhyme, I think, as well. So, yeah. Ollie Wines is one I want to talk about. So 133 points. 2 out of his last 3 games are 100-plus scores, but it kind of coincides with Rosie's injury games, though. What's your opinion? Has he turned a corner, or has he just had a good few weeks here?
I've noticed as well, he's been, like, the games that he's put these scores up, he's been tackling. Like, he's had 10, 9 and 7 tackles the last 3 weeks,
numbers,
which is big for numbers. So, and the weeks that he wasn't scoring well, like against Collingwood, he had 0 tackles. So, that's obviously been, something in the last 3 weeks. But, he's looking like pretty solid, and like he's averaging 95 now as a midfielder for like your teams. Yeah. Obviously Rosie is going to affect him, but I don't know. He seems to be, if he's going to be tackling, he seems like he's been pretty solid at the moment. So,
I'm happy to ride that one out. I think it's just good for owners, and even if, like, I don't know, he's kind of one of those players you probably wish you held on to in Classic and trade out early, because you could have another rookie off the ground. But I think vindication for people that own him or have owned him through Ollie Wines' performances in the last few weeks. Tip of the cap to Willie Rioli with that 4 goals, not one I would want to field every week. Ryan Burton's been okay since being recalled, 90 points, but Burgoyne was missing as well, so I think that kind of boosts him a little bit. So not getting too excited there. Have you got Travis Boak? Oh, wait, did you do something here? Yeah.
So I put him. He was on the waivers. In my league, and I had a few injuries. So and because Geelong give up points, I was like, I'm going to get Boak here because I think he could put up an 80 plus.
Yeah.
So I streamed him and he got 90. And the last 3 weeks he's got 78, 75, 90, and he is sort of playing off sort of in the half forward. And I wonder if he can get that forward status in round 12. Could he be a solid option with the forwards that we don't have if he can try and go 70? Obviously, a few weeks ago he was the sub, but he was coming back. But he's just a little sneaky one that I've picked up. He'd probably be on a lot of waivers and potentially could get forward status and maybe put some scores up.
These are the sort of streams you need to make in your league and then tweet them afterwards. So they've already done your league. You can't, your league mates can't get on. Then give them to the masses.
Maybe I'll do a tweet.
That'd be followers galore if you pull those off. Jackson Mead's the other one, 83 points. Just interesting, given that Rosie was actually properly missing this time, and his CBA numbers went up. He'll probably feature in the CBA article tomorrow. Although I'm not expecting long term success from him, but he's been good this year. One of those players that's just a genuine trier, what I mean? And has got his way into the side by just knocking down the door, in the twos, and just we can't ignore him anymore. So I just don't know how he gets a game among our midfield in the future. And the thing is, like, he's the son of a Port legend type thing as well. So, like, he's not going to go anywhere, you wouldn't think. But,
no.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one.
I think Rosie obviously is going to affect him heaps.
Yeah.
But
like, maybe when Wines retires,
yeah.
But it's still a long way away. It's like, Wines just hit 30 now?
Pretty sure, yeah.
So, I don't know. Might be a while. Fremantle versus Sydney Swans. Yeah, bit of a nothing game. It was pretty sad for the Fremantle, and I think it took their toll on them, the sad news of the passing of Cam McCarthy. But it is what it is, and there was still fantasy points involved, so we might as well talk about it. The big one, Jeremy Sharp, 118 points. Kicked 2 goals. People have been saying, like, the last few weeks, like, he only scores well in the MCG because he's had his best scores on the G. But, like, it doesn't make much sense to me because my thing with the wings is, like, you know, if you play at a small ground, it's obviously going to help you. But isn't the Optus Stadium, like, still a pretty big ground?
It's massive ground.
Yeah. I think I looked it up. I don't think it's as big as the MCG, but it's close. Or it's
or the
one's longer,
wings.
one's wider, or something like that. But they're still pretty similar area type thing.
Yeah, it's a big ground.
Yeah, so I don't know. He's capable. There was a lot of junk time to his score though as well, but I don't know. We've talked about him on and off. He's probably picked up on enough. I actually think he's under the 40% own, but with back-to-back scores like that, you'd think he'd get a bit of attention, I reckon. Shout out to Brandon Walker, by the way. 80 points. I don't remember him scoring more points than that ever in his career. The guy I was playing in our league, who was bottom of the ladder, I lost to on the weekend. Had Brandon Walker on field and scored 80 points. I'll talk more about my loss later on in the... I'll pinpoint the moment where I lost my keeper league matchup, and you'll hear about it in a second. But yeah, shout out to Foss, who I was playing, who had Brandon Walker on field. Probably the only person in the country that did, and scored 80 points for him.
That's crazy.
Oliver Florence, sorry.
Well, once you see that score, like you just like you notice it, and you're like, oh, he got 80.
Yeah, exactly. How did that happen? He's the whole point of Brandon Walker is to not get kicks and stop his man getting kicked. So, anyways, moving on to some Sydney players. Oliver Florent, 135 points. What is his deal at the moment?
This is crazy. So I'm putting it down to like maybe they're putting a bit more time, like sort of like the Geelong with the Stewart. Are they putting time into something like a Blakey? Yeah. And Florent's just that guy now that. Because Blakey's so damaging, is he the one using it? I think Roberts is sort of maybe doing a bit more lockdown. Yeah. But like Florent 2 weeks ago, got like a 40. Yeah. So it's so hard to read.
Yeah, it is so hard. So you're probably right. It's a bit of a flow on as to who's getting the attention on the day, and he's just the next one out there. But again, it was a pretty nothing game, like, as well. So there was a lot of cheap stats to go around. And speaking of guys who love cheap stats, Jake Lloyd. I tweeted he's like an ex-girlfriend that you think you're finally over and then they text you. But he scored 112 points. Crunch some numbers on this one. He's averaging 92 away from the SCG. Wow. Averaging 61 at the SCG. So that has to be just playing on a wing on a small ground, right? You 100%. Just get skipped. Yeah. So if I can, I'm going to try to stream Lloyd for away games and try to bench him for home games. So see how that works. That's a good
stat, isn't it?
That 92 as well includes that Mount Barker game, which was I think it was like a score in the 50s or one of his lower ones, where like like you can make excuses, I guess, but like, you know, a country ground, it's not built up stadiums, like windy kind of conditions as well. It's like, it can be tough to score. I think even like Heaney had like, you know, when he was on that huge stretch, that had a pretty low score in that game as well. So like you can kind of pick and choose your stats a little bit if you include that too. Cause like if you take that one out, it's closer to like the 100 mark away from like the SCG. So yeah, pretty nuts.
That's crazy, isn't it? But
then like, you know, you take players off that wing, like McInerney, Florent, and their scoring's going up as well. So it kind of does make sense. All right, let's move into the Hawthorn St Kilda game. We might actually start with the Saints, and this is where I knew my weekend was over. So my opponent Foss, he had Rowan Marshall captain.
Oh no!
And like, yeah, it was nuts. He scored 1,750 or something like the bottom team scoring like the biggest score of the league, like type thing. His biggest score of the year, and my team just sucks. But that was a moment. So
don't you hate? Yeah.
Now, my history with Rowan Marshall this year, I traded him into my Supercoach team, trying to be smart, get ahead of the game, get a good ruckman in early.
That was the right move. I thought that was the right move.
Scored 51 and 61. Traded him out for Sweet to cash in to get 2 extra, gun midfielders in. And since then, he's put up 2 monster scores. And it's probably the reason why my rank's in free fall, because like I've just wasted trades in the ruck and where other people have gotten ahead. So Rowan Marshall, I hate you, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, and the only reason because you asked me about the trades and I was like, Marshall, is because he was like, wasn't he injured, Marshall? Like he was
injured and Hayes came in.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was like, well, are they going to sub? And they were playing, like, we thought you might have been subbed to that game.
Yeah.
And now he's come out and done 100 and then the 160. Like,
Hayes was probably the tipping point that I decided to trade him, because I was like, there's no way they're bringing Hayes in if he's 100% fit. And then he scored 100
exactly
in that game, And then Hayes got subbed out. I think he got 2 kicks on the weekend.
He got 12 points.
Yeah, so no good. And then, Rowan Marshall just went bond. So, hate Rowan Marshall. Let's move on. Josh Battle has moved into the forward line and scored 106 points. He's had 2 good scores in a row. The thing is, like, so many times this year, and most of the time it's when you're on the podcast, well, you're probably the most frequent guest these days, but we often get key defenders or key forwards back-to-back good games, and then we generally tip them to go low the next week, and they do. So would you say the same for Josh Battle?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about, like, Battle is that the Saints game, they just chip it around a lot, and I mean, he's put up this score, but you're right. Like he's hard to trust. He could put up a 50 or a 60 the next week. So just one, if you can stream. With
the chipping around and that, like, there was a lot of, I think, St Kilda scores, but mostly too good for the podcast type players. What is it called? Utah Stadium, is that what it's called? York Park, whatever it is actually called these days. Apparently, it's one of the widest grounds in the competition, and the commentators are saying on the radio, they're basically like, you just cannot not afford to switch there. So there's so much switching going on that ground, and that's why the Hawthorn players, when they play, they generally go all right. And St Kilda also went all right in this game. And players like Darcy Wilson and Jimmy Webster was the big one, 86 points. Just so much switching going on.
Like Wangani Malira got 113, and Bonner got 129.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
If Battle's there, I mean, I don't know, if he's playing forward, but like these guys are going to get. They're just going to get points, aren't they?
Going back to Darcy Wilson, I'm elevating him to too good for the podcast. Listed as a forward
he's
again.
A gun.
He's on my classic team, so he's way too good to be talked about on this podcast. And then, like I said, Jimmy Webster, they all just got involved. They just feasted on that kind of chipping and switching around. And they lost the game too. So, it wasn't like it was part of their strategy or anything. It's just that they couldn't really do anything else. Jack Ginnivan, he had 78 points moving on to the Hawks here. He's had 70-plus scores, 3 out of his last 4. I've started actually fielding him in my Keeper League team as my F5 because, I've got no one else really. So
that's pretty handy.
Yeah, and he's scoring 70-plus. I think he had 78 in this game,
Did he kick many goals or,
I was listening on the radio, so I'm not sure. But, probably.
Yeah.
But he moves up the ground, takes a few marks as well. So
it's good though.
He's playing a bit higher.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Essendon versus GWS. All right, Sam Durham. So, again, tipped his breakout this year. 97 points. Playing accountable midfield roles, which does, cause some fluctuation in scoring, but, I don't know. He's still better than his scoring from the wing, you know what I mean? So, you trust him more. he's just a lot more fieldable this year, don't you think?
100%. And especially once you go inside midfield and doing CBAs, like you're going to get an uptick. And we even talked about him last year about an average, and we think he can go 80 plus, and that's fieldable in the draft league. And I'd be pretty confident in just putting him straight on field. So
yeah,
I think anyone that goes inside is going to get that. Yeah, he's going to get that uptick. So that's awesome. 97, unreal.
Yeah. So like my team, he's on the field of my team. My midfield at the moment includes like people like Tom Mitchell, who's out. I had Braden Fiorini playing on there as well, so he was out on the weekend, managed. Then like Luke Parker is one of my midfielders as well.
Why is he can't? Yeah,
no
idea. Just stack the Swans.
Yeah,
I think he'll play soon. He has to.
Yeah, he's performing too well on the twos, and I think he's playing a bit more forward. I think like what my gut feel is, and we're talking about Sydney now, but my gut feel is that they're retraining him as like a mid forward, and he's just got to spend a few weeks in the VFL doing that job, because I saw he kick the match winning goal. On the weekend as well. So like
that makes sense, because like Sydney's midfield is like unreal at the moment. Yeah. It's the top rated in the league. So like why would you change it?
You think like maybe someone like James Jordan could come out of that side, but he's doing too good of a job as a tagger. Yeah. Like he's probably the weakest link, but he does his job right for the team. So I think they have to retrain him and maybe take someone like, I think maybe Wicks. They probably want to get outside,
Wicks,
get him a forward line, get a gig. And so I'd expect Parker in a few weeks once he's kind of just had a bit more of a run in that forward line. That's my gut feel. What's going on?
Maybe he gets forward status as well.
Yeah, hopefully. That's why I kept him, because I was hoping he would, because of that talk of Heaney going in the midfield and all that sort of stuff. So if Parker's on your waiver, and people are dropping him or getting frustrated, I think he's not going to play. He's probably one to go on with as well. But anyway, we're talking about Essendon versus GWS Giants here. So, Nick Hind had 97 points. He played the half-back role, and I think it pushed Heppel up to the wing. So Dersmar out. My worry was Martin was going to go back to the wing, but he's doing too good in defence, so that wasn't really going to happen. But so I think that was the shuffle, and I think it was just a good game for half-back flankers, because there are a few in this game, except if you're Lockie Whitfield, because I think people have discovered if you shut down Lockie Whitfield, you shut down GWS at the moment. So
I know,
tough few weeks for owners. Yeah. So I think that's going to keep going on there. And the other one is Todd Goldstein. So 82 points. There was Brad Scott interview saying Draper had a knee issue, so it wasn't just being dropped for being a dickhead on his podcast. So, dickhead. There was so much chat about that. A lot of people saying like he should be applauded for saying that sort of shit, which I kind of agree with, in the fact that like you want players to have some sort of personality, like maybe not applauded, but you don't want them to be robots either. And like maybe don't go as far as the NBA where they're all trash talking each other and stuff like that, but you don't want them to be boring either. So I don't know.
It's a hard line, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if Draper is going to go get this knee surgery or this clean out, Goldie on like 82, pretty solid. I think you can go at that for the rest of while Draper's out.
The only other thing on that is what's their backup? Nick Bryan, is that his name? Had a monster game in the twos as well. So that might stifle things there, because apparently he's looking awesome in the twos.
They want to get games into him.
Yeah, because he's probably... Like if Draper doesn't sort his shit out, and become like a viable option, you've got Goldstein for 2 years. Brian could overtake him.
Yeah, he could be the man.
So that's one to watch. Stashing your keeper leagues, Nick Bryan. Speaking of Nick Haynes. I dismissed his VFL performance in the last race, because I think he had 300 plus scores in the VFL in a row, and I was just like, if he's not coming in 2 in a row, he's probably not going to come in this week. And I wrote the article because Kay's was unavailable. And then, comes in and takes a bunch of marks in defence and scores an 82. So, takes a lot of marks. Can be viable back there. But I don't know. It's not comfortable fielding him or would want to rely on him.
It's hard because you've got like Ash, Himmelberg, Whitfield. Like they all usually take the points. So, it's hard to trust him, but one to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And Harry Perryman, I think we've got to make too good for the podcast as well. He's averaging that 80 plus from the last 3. Like a few years ago, we we're getting excited because he was going on the midfield and stuff like that. I think those days are over, but just does his job and gets the around the 80 mark most weeks. So he's going to be picked up and fielded in most leagues. So probably one to move on. Gold members, thank you to Sean Leonard, Jared Pulsar, Ricky Mitchell, Trent Rojan, Rowan Marshall, get fucked. Surely that's not the same guy.
What a week to have him on there.
That is not the same guy. That is surely not. Anyway, Rowan Marshall, James Van Balen, Matt Quigley, Matt Jones, Mick Doherty, Brody Johnson, Braden Wren, Tim Stickland, Tom Bevan, Josh Cleland, and Tim Myers. Thank you to those people who support the podcast. Honestly, cannot do the podcast without member support. Awesome to see people like just re-signing up in the last few weeks as well. Just, hearing these calls and want to support the show. Because honestly, if I don't have members, the show doesn't continue. I go back to working full time and I have no time to get any of this stuff done. So thank you so much for those people who support the show. Let's continue on with the round review. Didn't watch a second of this, so long story is I'll dob him in. Nah, it's not even dobbing him in. Supposed to have Aaron Bryans on this week. Called me after he finished commentating the Crows versus Brisbane game last night, and he's just crook as a dog. Like, I don't even know how he got through the call doing
it's going around, isn't it?
Yeah, and he actually sounded like okay on the call, but I noticed like he was very few and far between taking over, and I was like, he's not really saying much on this this broadcast. I was wondering what was going on, and so I did not watch this game at all because Aaron being the Richmond supporter, I just expected him to watch this game. So sorry if the analysis is a bit short on this one.
I watched a bit of it. So,
awesome. Yeah. Sweet. I was hoping you would. So anyway, Daniel Rioli, 102 points. He's had a few good games in a row. So like, what's the catalyst here?
He has. I'm an owner as well. It's hard to put like a catalyst down of what's happened here.
Is it just there's like a severe lack of quality at Richmond and he just stands out as like one of the stars?
And I think he's just in a bit of form as well now. He's, like obviously started the season quite slow. He obviously takes a few kick-ins as well, but he seems to be that guy that they look for straight away out of the kick-in.
Well, he can break a line and he's a pretty good user.
Exactly. So I think he's just in a bit of form. Obviously the ball's down there a bit at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
With the dog, like the dogs just smashed him. So I don't know if there's a catalyst, but a couple good weeks, which has been good because as an owner at the start of the year, I was like looking at benching him and stuff, and now he's been putting up some solid scores. So it gives me confidence to, put him straight on the field.
The other one is Tyler Sonsi, 79 points. What's your take on him? Like, because he's someone that I think put up good. Yeah. Was he out of the VFL or? Oh, he's either out of the VFL or he's a junior who played some VFL as a junior and put up some good numbers there.
So, I think he had like solid numbers. But
do you think he's ever going to be like a decent fantasy scorer?
Yeah, I'm unsure on Sonsi. Like, I need to see more from him. And Richmond have got like so many of these guys that like who's going to be the next one through? Like they're trying out Dow. They've got like Ross there. They've got Sonsi. They've got like McAuliffe now. I just wonder who the next like bunch is. They had he had a few CBAs, which was like good to see, but he wasn't the main guy. Like it looks to see like Dow is the guy that they're trying to like give him the main thing in there.
That's the thing. I
just don't know what the next mix is.
With the teams at the start of their rebuild, you get guys like him thrown into like roles, but then like by the time their rebuild ends, like 3, 4 years, 5 years later, you've had 5 years worth of first round draft picks and things like that. Like these guys need to show something pretty soon. Otherwise they just get moved on and tried for other people pretty quickly. So like you saw it all through like the Melbourne down and out years and all that sort of stuff as well. Like you see these potential young guns come through, but if they don't take off straight away, they tend to go back to the tried and true or whatever they can use to like develop everyone else further as well. So
Richmond, like if they're 17th, they're probably going to get picked too. So like you said, who are these? Like they're probably going to pick a gun mid coming in. So it's just
knowing the AFL, they'll probably get a priority pick or something as well. So just like West Coast want at the moment, even though they won a flag in 2018. But anyway, I think the West Coast talk of that's out the window anyway. On to the Dogs. Ed Richards dropped back to 13% CBAs last week and then went back up to 93%, his highest for the year. What the hell happened? It's scored 141 points. What the hell happened?
Crazy.
Here?
Obviously, Libba out. That's the main thing.
So he's the new Libba.
Yeah, if Libba's out, Bevo loves him in there, I think, as like the guy. But to do 100, like he had like 90% CBAs a couple of weeks ago and he was scoring 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
To put out a 140, I was like surprised.
Bit of Richmond factor about it.
Bit of Richmond factor. But like he actually, like maybe it's a few weeks he's settled into the role now.
Yeah.
If Libba, who knows how long Libba is out for? If he is out for the indefinite, if he's out for the year, he's probably a good option. I don't know whether he can go 140 again, but like he's 90% CBAs. It looks like Bevo is trusting him as the man to replace Libba. So
in my dynasty league, I lost to the top team by about 60 points with Ed Richards on the bench.
Oh no,
no emergency on him either, so I couldn't even loop him on. Sucks. James Harms, 134 points. Now, I believe, well, he was halfback last week because I watched him. Was he forward this week? He kicked 4 goals.
Kicked 4 goals.
What the hell was happening?
He was the one I was watching, he was mostly like on the wing and just like basically going everywhere, like going halfback and then going forward, and he got just some nice like some good, some lucky goals as well, some like nice soccers and stuff as well. But I just think this game was so open, like, again, 134 points, like where did that come from?
Yeah.
But I think I have Harms in a league as well, and to see him at on the wing, like, and sort of like switching between, that's pretty good to like, put on your forward lines, because before he was doing that half forward role, which was it's like a very difficult role to play, and he was getting 40s.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's good. Like, obviously he's on a lot of waiver wires. So if he is there, like, he'd have to be your number 1 pick this week.
Yeah, I'll put him in the waiver wire podcast. So yeah, he's definitely up there. But it's crazy because I thought he was dead and buried, a few weeks ago.
I was almost going to drop him.
Yeah, yeah.
And my brother's like, I'll pick him up. And like, okay. So people are looking at it, I'll keep, and then bang.
Fair enough. Aaron Norton had 111 points, 4 goals. He's just not consistent enough for mine, but good performance here. Like, fieldable because you need 5 forwards, and he's generally around that 70 mark. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I wish I could see. He could be like a Kerno type player. I don't know. He just has like those big ceiling games, you know what I mean? But just doesn't happen enough. Bailey Williams is a player I actually like the look of. Like, well, he's been around for a while, but 96 points. And because he just puts up some handy scores in that wing, I'm finding, and I've said this week in, week out, the hardest position to field a good player in at the moment, I think, is your M7 position. And it's guys like him that kind of, everyone's got like a player like him, I've got a Sam Durham, those type of players in your M7 role, like even like a Xavier Dersma, who I also have. Like, a player like him that can pop a 90 every now and then is like pretty valuable to have this season. So
100%.
He's another one that's like under 40% owned on waiver wires too. So I don't mind Bailey Williams as a pickup. Jack Macrae. So you mentioned before as Ed Richards is like the new Libba. My thinking was like Macrae could just be more trustworthy now that Libba's out. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm not sure about Macrae. Like, this is a game that years ago, like, you looked at all the dogs, like there's a 140 there, there's a Trelaw 150, there's a Harms 130. Okay. Like, Macrae in old days, he would have gone 150, 160.
Yeah.
Like, Bont's gone 130. To come up with 88 points when they're feasting, like, I don't know, he didn't have that many CBAs, he was doing that dirt forward role. Obviously, he's a scorer, like 88 points is good as a forward, but this is a Macrae that would, like, years ago, you just look at that game, they've won by like 70 points. Macrae would usually pop 140.
I know, like, but I'm not really expecting that from Macrae anymore. I'm expecting like 90 average forward. Do you reckon we could see that from now on?
I think, I think so. Like, the forward options are obviously, there's only a handful there this year.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably still going to be F5, F6 at the end of the season. Probably F6, but he's still probably going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, he can still score. I think
that's F6 in Classic. He's probably going to be most people's like F1 to F2s. I think he's my F2 in one of my leagues.
I think, Richards is the guy now with the Libba out, not Macrae.
Interesting. Riley Garcia had 85 points. 2 goals there. Are there signs for the future with him, or is this just like, again, like feasting on Richmond?
No, I think he actually looks. I think he's like got himself in the best 22 now, and he looks good. His pressure's pretty good as well.
He works his way in through just like some good VFL performances as well. So that's always a positive sign if they can force their way in through good performance and actually put up some scores. Just be nice to see it against someone who isn't Richmond as well. And same with like Sam Darcy. Well, not even same with, but Sam Darcy actually looks like he's going to be a gun player of the future. Yeah. Like, he's going to be like the key forward pinch hit in the ruck type deal. Although he could go back one day because he can kind of play anywhere. It's just a gun. So, yeah.
So glad I held him in Supercoach.
Supercoach, yeah. Wish I did. Moving on to the Gold Coast Suns versus North Melbourne. It was about half time of this game. I cracked the shits, turned it off, went to bed because, like, my opponent had like 5 players in this game. And it's like, it's Darwin. He's surely going to have some 30s and some 40s in this game, But then he had like Alex Sexton, 88 points. I think he had Braden Ainsworth, who scored an 80. He had Took Miller. Those guys are always going to feast in these kind of games because it's tackles galore. Meanwhile, my only player in this game was Tristan Sherry. He had 51. So it's just like, And like his score was going backwards in the third, I think, as well. So just giving away free kicks and not giving touch. So apologies if my second half analysis is shit because I didn't watch it. Mac Andrew, though, 107 points. This guy is an amazing talent. So he was essentially playing centre half back and then going into the ruck as like with like not really resting either. Because machine, like fitness, like tank type thing, but also just like the athleticism as well. I still think he's like best used as a key defender. So like he's only going to be pinch hitting in the ruck because, you know, they're not going to play a second ruckman. So he'll just do the kind of pinch hit. But as opposed to like the forward rucks who I think it hinders because like I think when the forward goes into the ruck, that's time they could be kicking goals. I always think like it's much easier to get a plus 12 from a mark kick than a goal than it is to get 12 hit outs when you go into the ruck. You know what I mean? But someone like Mac Andrew, like where your key defenders probably aren't doing a heap anyway and they don't have that extra plus 6 from kicking goals, I think it actually helps him. So Mac Andrew is just one I've got my eye on.
He's a high, like he's pick 5.
Yeah.
So
highly touted.
The talent is there.
Yeah, definitely. But it's like, imagine if you could score like Jacob Wiedering, but then pick up an extra 10, 15 points by getting hit outs. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
massive.
It could be a decent play. Alex Sexton, fuck off. 88 points. I think he's one to look at, like for Will Powell, who's going to be out for another 4 weeks. The VFL form was just really good. That's the thing. But then I saw Connor Buderick put up a good performance in the 2s as well. So they might rotate and try the 2 of them. But I think Sexton is the preferred option over the 2. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And Powell's out and can't say it last week as well, Lukosius. He's back forward now, so they need someone back there. Yeah.
Well, the other one they brought in was Joel Jeffrey. Only 51 points, but it's the right role, and I just don't think you can expect him to score. Like, he's the intercept mark type guy, greasy conditions. Like, I want to see him on a dry field where he can kind of actually take a grab and then run and dash type thing as well. The other one was Alex Davies. He scored 84 points from 52% time on ground. I think just like this game is like just suited. Yeah. These conditions are just suited for him. He also cramped up and couldn't even walk. Like, and they had to sub him out because he couldn't even move. He was cramping up so much. So I'm not sure what that says about him. He might be out next week, but could be a 1 week play if you need a forward up in Darwin because he doesn't need a lot of time on ground to score. That's for sure. Zach Fisher is the other one. So 103 points. He's thriving with Sheaves in the midfield. Probably too good for the podcast, but I want to know your thoughts. Like, is this role going to continue for Sheasel? Because it's not having any effect on whether they're winning or losing games.
I'm worried about it as a Sheasel. Like, he just doesn't look the same guy. Obviously, it's a new role, but you know, it's hard because Clarko could just flick him back and then everything changes again. But
I don't think they will.
Yeah, I think they need to try and progress their game. So I think Sheasel just needs to obviously. It's a new role. It's going to take him a bit of time to get into it. As we spoke last week, if the prospects of Sheasel, if he's a bit forward and he can go 90, it's obviously he's going to be still unreal. But it's that transition is always hard. I mean, who knows what Clark is going to do, but I think they're just going to stick with it. Yeah,
you're going to have at least another 3 or 4 weeks of just looking at it before they actually make a decision what they do, I think. So it sucks for owners, but you've just got to grin and bear it. Hopefully it's like better off long term, you know. You're never going to have as much, you know, points across the half-back line as you do at North Melbourne, but you might get a mid-forward status out of him in the future. So hopefully you are better off long term. Don't do anything stupid like trade him in your draft or keeper leagues. Trade him in your classic leagues if you really want to, but surely you've got bigger issues than him. And Jaden Stevenson, just a tip of the cap, 84 points. He was probably one of the only live ones up forward for the Kangaroos who scored 2 goals. Moving on to the Sunday games. Again, didn't watch either of them because I'd well and truly cracked the shits at football and AFL Fantasy by this point. But anyway, Collingwood versus West Coast Eagles. Jack Crisp, we mentioned he was the one getting the bump with DeGoey and Mitchell out. Also a lot of West Coast factor about the 130 points there. Don't think you can put too much confidence in it if those guys come back pretty soon.
Yep, 100%.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Still side bottom. Went to a half-back roll. 94 points.
Yeah.
And, you know, his scoring went up. The half-back roll was much better for fantasy scoring than the wing is. What are your thoughts? Worth a cheeky either waiver or... I sent out the cheeky trade request to the owner in our league today. Got rejected straight away.
No. Honestly, I wonder if people actually are aware of it because...
If you didn't watch it, you wouldn't know.
Exactly. And... if he does this role, like, it's very handy. And like you're talking about M7s, like you could just run him
He's
at
another
M7.
one. He's an M7.
And if he can go at 85 or 90 with his half-back role, like a lot of people are like struggling with that M7 role in a lot of leagues. So I would be putting a waiver in for him for sure.
I've put the waiver in for the Shiva League. I just think I stupidly used up my priority. I had a really high priority.
Yeah.
But I used it on Jace Burgoyne a few weeks ago. So anyway.
That's all right.
Yeah, then he got injured though. Joe Richards, 81 points, 1 goal, 6 tackles in the forward line. Don't love the role, but it was a good score. Maybe a classic or super coach cash cow coming up. But I'm not sold on him for long-term fantasy scoring just yet. Finn McRae is a player that was super hyped up in the preseason. Finally gets a run, really, 71 points, but played forward and kicked 3 goals for that. Only the 3
goals
bounces.
for 71 points. That's concerning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If he's playing anywhere, it's going to be forward, especially with all the midfield outs as well. They're coming back straight in, so he's no chance of going in there. Alex Witherden, someone asked if they should drop him last week. I hope they didn't.
Lucky we said hold.
Not sure what to make of him though. Like, I just don't notice him when he plays.
Yeah.
That's my issue with him. Like, it
Does he just get the chip mark and, then he kicks it and
just
it's gone.
Doesn't do
and
anything. Useful. So, like, he scores well. He's just got to remain in the side. I just don't think he's well loved by the coaches. But there was a few injuries in this game. Petruccelli was out early. I think Brady Hoff as well.
Okay.
Got injured as well. I remember him hobbling at some stage, but listened to it on the radio. But I think he was injured at some stage as well. But yeah, he might hold. Hopefully he does, and just keeps the scoring up. Tom Cole's a player I like as well. 96 points, just can pop up with good scores defence. But I think like with McGovern going down, he just propped everyone's score up a little bit. Just, everyone was more involved in the chip rounds and stuff when there was less like intercept marking going on from him. So yeah, Tom Cole.
Another Dossy boy.
Another is a Dossy boy. One of my mates, actually, so I went to high school with Shannon Hearn was the year above me.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of know him. Like I used to sit next to him on the bus actually when we were like year 8, year 9. But as we all started driving to school and stuff like that, it kind of drifted apart type thing. But a few mates have stayed in touch with him, and they went over to Shannon Hearn's last game last year, and Shannon Hearn doesn't really drink. Like, he's pretty serious kind of guy. So these guys all wanted to go out clubbing, and they reckon that Tom Cole, Tom Barras, and there was one other were just like the 3 best, funniest, loosest blokes like, out there. It's a pretty funny story. Like, Shannon said to Tom Barras, he's like, "Oh, make sure my mates get into the nightclubs out here." And Tom Barras goes, "I can't even get myself in the nightclubs." But apparently they did get in, but he was a real pest about it as well. So
there you go.
But
That's cool.
Pretty funny story. Yeah. Apparently, Tom Cole though, absolute legend of a bloke. Adelaide Crows versus Brisbane Lions, the draw from here.
Another draw. Is that the most like the record for draws this year?
There's been a lot, hasn't there? That's one for the Sir Swamp thing to come back to us with. Darcy Fogarty, 101 points, 4 goals. Is he worth a waiver pickup?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe behind side bottom and maybe after those. And there was another Harms.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. 90 points he got, and now he's backed up with 100. So is he getting a bit of form?
And it's like not like it was a shit opponent. I think he was actually on. What's the good key defender for them? Not Payne, because Payne was on Tex.
Andrews.
Harris Andrews. Payne was on Tex and gave him a bar, so I think he actually had Andrews on him as well and kicked 4 goals. So, yeah.
I mean, he's done it 2 weeks in a row. Like, that's pretty good. I think, he might be hitting some form here. So
yeah, again, like, would have been good if he hit that earlier because of like the Thursday and Friday games that Crows have.
Yes.
And I think when the fixture gets flexed, I don't know if the Crows are going to be getting many more. Lockie Shoal, M7.
He's been great.
He's an M7. He's one of those guys I've been talking about. 79 points. Like, I picked him up off the waivers a few weeks ago, playing him in that M7 role. And, he's just been awesome. Like, I think he's had 3 almost near 80 scores in a row. Pushed forward for a goal last week. Yeah, probably like almost too good for the podcast, but it just doesn't feel right making Lockie Shoal. He feels like a perennial Keeper League podcast name. That's all. So I might give him another week because he's bound to probably stink it up again soon and get dropped. Jack Payne had 98 points. He had 12 marks. He just gave Tex a bath. And I don't think Tex touched it until just before halftime as well. So, not reading into that too much. Tip of the cap to Calamachi as well. Kicked 4 goals. Scored 93 points, not reading into that. And the other one is Jasper Fletcher. Not really expecting too much this season, but I think he's just showing good signs as a youngster. It's just like a hold in keeper leagues type deal, I think.
I'd definitely be holding him. I think he's got some real talent.
Is he one of the reasons why Berry's probably playing a little bit better as well? Maybe holding up that outside because, Jared Berry.
He's solid, on the wing.
Last goal members read. Thank you to Tim Myers, Lincoln Smith, Scott Minchin, Michael Minns, Matt Ball, Nick Brankovic, Daniel Luchev, Josh Gallo, Will Robertson, Tim N, Elliot Hoffman, Brett Johnston, Martin Anisfison, Zach Shutt, and Joseph Love. And there's one name in there I'm not going to read out. So we'll leave it at that. It's a bit rude. That's all. Let's get into the questions. Let's finish it off. Rye Bread wants to know thoughts on Owens. Do you see a world where he can get back to a 70 average?
100%. This guy, I like he's a talent, and he also can move up the ground, do a bit of rucking what he was last year.
Can you see a world where he gets back to a 70 average this year?
Well, that's another question. I think with the Saints doing not the best.
Yeah, I think that's
maybe
more the factor.
not. But as a prospect, like he was going in your mock simulator, I reckon he was going like, in the first 70 picks.
My dynasty league, he was like my shining light in my forward line, and now I don't even field him. Yeah. So
not sure about 70 this year, but I wouldn't be dropping him at all.
Again, if you're in a single season, you're concerned, but keeper league, it's more of a St Kilda issue than it is an Owens issue.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So just write it out. He'll be a gun of the future. Like you've seen him. He's a freak talent. He can play anywhere on the ground. Like,
yes.
Absolute gun. At Diddley Docker, what's your best keeper buy low candidates right now? I feel LDU is just as low as he'll get before he picks up from form to be traded elsewhere. Who else?
Definitely chips in at LDU. I know we spoke about it last week, but he might, there's talk, he goes to Geelong maybe, or the Crows if he does get traded.
Yeah.
And Geelong, I imagine he went to Geelong, Dangerfield out, LDU in.
Yeah. Probably another one, Darcy Parish after his 60 on the weekend. He's better than that. Especially considering the last few weeks, you've seen him put up.
I reckon...
Probably should have done some research on this one. There's probably a few out there.
For me, I'm a Chera owner.
Yeah.
And I am getting a bit worried about these hamstrings. He just keeps doing these hamstrings.
Yeah.
Comes back for a couple of weeks. He's going at 85 this year. I think... I got a bit frustrated personally as a Chera owner, so I think he could be one that you could go for.
Yeah.
I know Newcomb was another name, but he put up a ton on the weekends.
Yeah.
But he had been a bit out of form.
Yeah.
If you can try and target these guys that he's sort of got youth on their side, like a LDU or a Parish.
On the kind of flip side, I'm a Andrew Brayshaw owner, and I'm getting pissed off with his 11-point last quarters, and shit like that, to the point where I'm like, do I throw an offer for a McKercher? Because I don't think my team's gonna win the flag this year. I'm getting to the point where my three best players are getting to late 20s type thing. It's do I just start the rebuild now, type thing? But is he someone to target low, do you think? Or
definitely Brayshaw, he's you've seen before, he can go.
I just feel
he obviously is behind Sorong.
He's just
now.
pushed down, and then even Young, probably as well. They seem like he's more important to them than he is. It's to the point where Brayshaw's not even Young's probably more of the tag target now. Well, they seem to be putting more attention into him on the weekend anyway.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Vegemite Man asks, is the fog finally settling? I think we just touched on that, and I think it's definitely worth a sneaky waiver if it's not going to cost you a priority or anything like that. If you can just pick him up as a free agent as opposed to a restricted free agent, I'd be on board with that. At Major Vam Bam, what was Nick Hines' role, and is it sustainable? Yeah, halfback role. I think as soon as Dersmar comes back, though, it's shaky again. So,
maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I think he's got the quad. So yeah.
What's up with is Bruce Reveal, isn't it? She's on the hill at the showdown, and it's just some random come up to me and just goes, "What do you think of Bruce Reveal?" And then showed me the photo of his haircut.
That's so random.
It was a pretty good photo. Yeah, I think he did listen to the pod, so and he knew someone I knew as well. So Badger's asking, this is from Discord, what's up with the Reveal having a 50 to 6% game time? Last week they had no bench yet. He sat out the last 10 minutes. This week he's off the field for a long time. Are they easing him in? With Bruce, I don't know, he doesn't look like the kind of guy he has a huge tank on him just yet. And like second game, like, and even if you've only got one left, like you've got to put someone there.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's just it's his second game. Like you can't you see it with these guys coming in for the first second games. They don't give them really high time on ground straight away, because it's AFL level is another level to the league below. So it's like I think it's that. I don't think he's. I mean, from what I could see, I don't think he's carrying anything.
Nah.
Like it's a second game.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that more is like I think he's saying his score, like points per minute, is quite good. So is there a fantasy prospect there? But yeah, I think like second game, like I don't know what. Like to be honest, like I'd seen his photo because it was a funny photo, like on the Brisbane website. Just want to scrape photos, but like he's never come across my radar as anything.
Me either.
You know what I mean? So like I don't know what people are actually expecting of him, to be honest. But like if you do think he's going to be alright, which I need to know a lot more about him, like give him more time than his second game, I think.
Yeah.
Hugh Mann, would you rate Meek against Nank and the Big O? So I'm not sure if he means playing against them, because I'm not sure who they have coming up, or if he means like taking them over Nank and the Big O. And either way, like Richmond and Brisbane are the ranked 5th and 6th for ruck scores against. I think that's going on fantasy positions.
Yeah.
And then I think as it goes to like champion data, ruck, like whoever they classify as rucks, you know what I mean? I think they're even higher against like pure rucks type things, not just people with ruck status. And in terms of if I'd take them over them, I think I would at this stage. Like Nank getting on, he's still a gun.
Yeah.
But like if you're in a keeper league, I think Meek's the better prospect going forward. And Big O's like an 80 type average ruck guy. He's 31 or 32, isn't he, as well?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Meek's he's been unbelievable. Like
incredible.
He's gone 117, 124 last 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah. In any sense, whatever you're asking, yes, buy Meek stocks. The last question of the night comes from Tom Oates, or is it Oots? I never know. What's happened to Toby Green? I think, okay, there's a few things here. Like he's scoring less goals as well. And coupled with getting less, even though he wasn't getting a heap of midfield times, getting even less midfield time at the moment as well, plus not scoring goals. And I think teams are just putting time into him, like, and stopping him. So
I think and he could be just a little bit out of form of the last year he had an unbelievable year.
Yeah.
All-Australian captain.
Yeah.
You know, like he was awesome. Like sometimes it's hard to keep that. Obviously, he's a gun player, but sometimes it's hard to keep that, that sort of form. So
yeah,
I think he'll be fine. It's Toby Green. He's like the best. Like he's probably top 3 player in the comp.
Yeah, when he's on form, that's for sure. I think, with Toby Green as well, like I think sometimes you see his scores from like his averages from last few years, like COVID year 65, so that's like an 82, 84, 74 in 2022, and then an 88 last year. Like sometimes it actually surprises me he has scored as well as he has just for the type of player he is.
Yeah.
And like to average around a 68, 70 type thing, being a non-midfielder forward, like, and you're not a key, you're just a general forward essentially. I think sometimes he just will have years like this where everything doesn't click, and he's not kicking. He kicked 66 goals, I think it was last year.
Yeah.
Almost 70 goals last year. Like if you're not doing that, like you're not going to have the fantasy scores. It's just plain and simple. But then I think like Hogan stepped up. Like
Daniels.
And then Daniels has definitely stepped up. Riccardi's like a pretty like handy key forward now. There's just other avenues to goals.
He could be a buy low from that question.
Absolutely, yeah, that's good.
Going
call,
at 68,
actually.
so I think he's better than that. So
yeah, for sure.
People again going back to that. Like sometimes these like owners, you get frustrated. And I'm a bit frustrated with Cherry. So you would Brayshaw. He could be a Toby Green, and
I'm frustrated with my whole team in my dynasty league. I actually just said, if anyone wants to win a flag, come at me. Trade me some draft picks. I'm done.
Brayshaw's your man, though. I don't know. That's the only thing is that you might get something good, but you love him.
The thing is, like with players like him, it's just like, do I let them fizzle out and become 90 average guys, or do I cash in while there are still the hype still there? That's the type of thing.
Sometimes there's players in my team that doesn't matter if they fizzle out. I want them for their whole career. I know it's not as smart. Like someone like Rosie, I don't think I'll ever trade him. And if he can just be forward, so and he's going at 70 in his last few years, I'm happy with that.
I've got like Jordan Dawson, who like, I hate the Crows, but I've always loved Jordan Dawson. Like when he was at Sydney and stuff, like I backed him in so early. Like even the earliest days of this podcast, I was all about. I think it was like the first year of the podcast, I was all about Jordan Dawson, And then Yeah, like say, even though he plays crazy. And then like, but these guys, like they get into their later 20s. I think he's like 26. And I just don't have the younger guys underneath to like bring my team to the next spot. You know what I mean? So do I just go all youth and get quality youth in? I don't know. It's
hard with youth though, because like,
not guaranteed.
You're not guaranteed.
But I reckon I could trade like a lawyer, like a Dawson for maybe like a McKercher or for a Darcy Wilson or, you know, that sort of stuff as well. Like it seems overs, maybe throw some draft picks in there as well. Yeah. But then I'd actually have like a core. Yeah, or maybe two young like guns.
A Windsor.
Yeah, like that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's
Kercher and Windsor.
Those sort of trades I'm starting to consider a bit more now that I've lost 4 games in a row after winning the first 5 of the season.
The other one is like Will Ashcroft actually as a buy. Like,
yeah, that's one I was thinking of, like throwing like Laird for Ashcroft.
Yeah, and he's injured. Like people might be a bit worried about him with his ACL. Yeah. Same as Bailey Smith. Like I know it's not a win now, but if you're like a rebuild team, Bailey Smith's going to have forward status next year. Does he get traded to Collingwood or something?
Yeah.
For mid-roll, forward, like
those injured guys.
Injured guys. If you want to throw it away or like you're not winning and you want someone to buy low, Bailey Smith like could be F1 next year. Who knows?
Yeah, true that. So he's going to have
I know you're going early. Yeah. If he goes to another club,
I can't see him being like not top 6 if he's a forward next year. So he'll be in everyone's classic team.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's wrap it up. Gigs playing at the Rams game on Friday. Is that right?
Yes, that's it. Next 2 months. So
Sweet.
Come down if you're a local.
Yeah, that's the only gig you got coming up.
Yep, and I got some at the footy, playing at the home ground, like the bar just on the Torrens there.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah, on the other side.
So just I'll be there this Sunday before the Port game, and there's a Crows game on a Thursday night, which I'll be at as well.
Sweet.
Before that. So,
might bring my son to the footy on Sunday, but we might pop in for something to eat or something like that.
Come down.
Yeah, the home ground. I like that place.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's wrap it up. Get around us on Facebook, X, starting to put more stuff up on YouTube, TikTok, all the socials. We're everywhere. You'll find us. Check out our website. Sign up as a member. Get around Game Day Squad. I think that's everything I need to mention. All right.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thanks for coming on. Take it easy.
See ya.
Boom.
Sweet. Unreal.